Hey, welcome to the First State Kopites podcast. It's episode 13 of our third season. It's a podcast for Liverpool supporters in Delaware and friends of those Liverpool supporters. Joined tonight, it's actually October 27th, 2021. We're going to talk about a few different things, but I'm joined tonight by Sean and by Daz, and we hopefully are going to have a bit of fun with the recent 5-0 win over Manchester United. 5-0 over Manchester United at Old Trafford, should be pointed out. Thanks for listening on your preferred platform. We're available on all of them, and we're also available on YouTube. I know our YouTube numbers have been ticking up, so thank you for joining us. We'll try and do our best to kind of make it more engaging on a video, I guess. Okay. Just want to start briefly by saying our sports club lost one of our founding members over the last week. So our delight over beating Manchester United is tinged with quite a lot of sorrow. So Lee Curtis, who was a close friend of Sean's, actually was at a game at Anfield with Daz, watched a bunch of games with me, passed away like a day and a half ago, and we're going to miss him. So I don't know if you want to add anything, Sean, but so if we're not as ecstatic about the Man United result, that's a big part of the reason. So.
I'll just add that Lee was a supporter longer than I was. I know he started like kind of late 90s, early 2000s, and he was kind of the person that got me going to Rooney's when I first moved to Delaware about 9 years ago. I knew him before I moved here, and so he was my cousin's best friend growing up, and so we got to be good friends, and yeah, he's going to be missed. So,
wow. So our podcast would never have happened without Lee. Sounds like. No, seriously. I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
No, probably not. Yeah. I mean, I know for me personally, I was reflecting the last couple of days on a lot, and he definitely made the transition when I moved from Maryland to Delaware a lot easier. So, yeah.
Lee. Okay, so it is October 27th, and Liverpool actually played today. They made it to the last 8 of the EFL Cup, beating Preston 2-0. My vote is not really to dwell on this one. I didn't see the whole game, but the signal chatter about the game didn't suggest it was a classic. But we do want to say thank you to Divock Origi once again and Taki Minamino for another EFL Cup goal. So I guess we'll find out on Saturday who we play in the last 8. But there's clearly something weird going on because Manchester City didn't get their Burton Albion draw, and somehow they're out of the competition. Wow, I don't know. Hytham, who's not with us, recommended that we all get wills and pray to whatever God we believe in because there's something wrong with the universe.
Maybe it's that Saudi money coming in already.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so we're not talking about Preston, are we? No. Didn't like the fact that actually that it broke our sequence of scoring at least 3 goals in every away game in the season.
If Neko had pushed that ball inside, Taki would have been able to knock it in with his hat at the end of the match there. But you know what, you give him. I'll give Neko some credit that he actually did a pretty bang up job on the outside right there, up top.
Yeah. Did. There were probably other stuff to talk about in this game, but I propose we move on because they'll probably play this team in the next round, whoever we play.
You've got to mention Divup's goal. Like the guy ambled around the pitch for the better part of 80 minutes. So like I heard someone say is you should get booked for time for being a waste of, or you should get booked for passing the ball for wasting your time or time wasting.
Yeah.
And then he just Misty Copeland's one over the goalkeeper's head.
Yeah.
I don't know who Misty Copeland is, everyone. She's a famous ballerina.
No, I didn't get that reference,
yeah,
but
that's a subset of our audience.
I didn't see it clearly the first time around, and then when I watched the replay, I was like, "What?" It's just such a classic Divi goal. You know, he walks around the pitch doing nothing all match, and then he does that.
It's like one of those like little pop-up things that you get inside like those music boxes, like those old girls' jewelry boxes where the ballerina's got her leg up in the air and she's twirling around slightly.
Mhm.
No,
Yeah.
no, you have daughters. Well, you're gonna have you'll know soon enough.
Yeah. Yeah, my
That
daughter's
that was my
into
take on it.
ballet. She's a Liverpool fan. That's her. She's the one transition I would like to make is I bet Divock had more touches in this game than Ronaldo did in the game on Sunday.
Nice transition.
That is a good one. Yeah.
Smooth transition. That's why they pay. That's why we pay you the big bucks.
Yeah. The 0.01 cent checks. Yeah.
Wait. You get a pen. You're getting a penny now?
No,
Too
that's
much. Too much.
0.00. Anyway, yes, let's move on. We are going to dwell on the battering of Manchester United. I think a few different things to discuss. And I'd like to start with, actually, because most of the post-match coverage obviously was about how terrible Manchester United were. And I think I have a nuanced view of this. There were certain players who I think were pretty awful, but there were some players on the team I thought were unnecessarily. So my perspective is there were some players who weren't as bad as the coverage said. Wasn't all of them.
What, the ball boy?
Actually,
he was immaculate.
It's easier to think. It's easier to think of people who are terrible. But so anyway, well, we'll get on to that because I think we want to start with what did Liverpool get right. I think and I'll preface this by saying a couple of things. In our last podcast, some fool said the line hasn't looked great at times. There could be a concern against better opposition. Someone also said very wisely, is it as simple as we are a better team? Sean, were we just a better team?
Yeah. And I'll give myself credit for saying that I said I thought we were going to batter them.
I think it was Heiko who said that. Yeah.
So no, I never imagined it was going to be that bad, but I was very confident going into the match. And then the team sheet came out, and I saw that Fabinho wasn't in the team, and I started to get kind of nervous. And it was just foolish to get nervous because we're just that much better than them. And the reason that I was confident it ended up playing out in the match is in my view, I thought if they lined up in their normal 4-2-3-1, their midfield just could not match up with our team, with our midfield or the way that we press. And that I think is basically what happened. We got behind, McFred way too easily, and then we're running at Lindelof and Maguire, and their back line was often completely unbalanced, and we were able to expose them. That first goal was really, really. I mean, I went back and watched the match a second time, at least like the first 75 minutes, because it starts to get boring because we just started passing the ball around like it was a training
rondos
regimen at the end. But so that first goal was really interesting. It came up the left side. Wan-Bissaka comes up to press Robbo. He goes around him very easily. And then the ball is just, McTominay's sucked too far off the pitch. And the ball just goes right behind McTominay to Salah, and he's one-on-one with Shaw, and Naby comes running up to the side. And it was that simple. I mean, they were just a shambles in terms of being prepared to play against us in the way we play. I think consistently over the last, 4 years under Klopp, almost every team that tries to come out and play us and doesn't sit back deeper, we slaughter 90% of them. It's like Man City and Bayern and the one game against Barcelona are the only ones I can really think of where we didn't do that, where we had, healthy team and all. And so for them to come out and play that way with the two-man midfield playing that high with Harry Maguire in defense is just super naive. And I just think Ole is clueless to come out and try to play us like that, and they got slaughtered, So
one thing, Sean, is you somehow turned it into how Manchester United is shit which I give. But I do think there are things in the game which point to so they didn't lose 5-0 to anybody else, right? And they've clearly played with Ronaldo in the team in a similar way. And I think, and we'll get to this, my case for Wan-Bissaka, one of the worst players in the Premier League. I think one of the brilliant things they did was not having anybody playing off the left side, left him, Wan-Bissaka alone. So he didn't have the I can tackle the left winger thing to do. And that set them all off. And I think what was wonderful was we clearly had a game plan to avoid him or make him confused. And it just worked perfectly. I know we had that guy on the United video talking about giving Keita the freedom of Manchester because he kept popping up with nobody near him. But it felt like that was a conscious effort because they dragged all these people over to the other side of the field, and up pops Naby and scores a goal, makes a goal, helps the other goal be scored.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Manchester United are shit. I think Ole is clueless. And I think they have a lot of very good, talented players, and they can win against some teams or a lot of teams just based on pure talent. But the talent is not put together very well, and we can get into talking about it today. We're playing as well as we were pre-pandemic. Anytime the Premiership winning season, the Champions League winning season, we're scoring over 3 goals a match right now, which is absurd. And all I mean to say is that, if you're playing against a team like that, and you look at any sort of track record of how we play against teams and how teams have success against us, it's just incredibly naive for them to come out that way. I mean, it's not that they don't have talent; it's that they're not being utilized effectively, and the team's not set up properly. You got Ronaldo standing up there by himself, and you got Bruno doing his thing in the middle. You got Greenwood and Rashford on the wings, who are not going to give you a lot in defense. And then you got McFred, who are okay, as a 2-man midfield. I'm not sure that I would take their midfield over. It might be 7 or 8 other teams in the league. I'd take their midfield over theirs if you're excluding Bruno. And we can go through that too. But and then they're playing a high line, and their back line really isn't set up to play a high line with the players they have. So it just doesn't make any sense. They're not organized well. I was wondering if they'd play Matic just because, just for some more skill. And remember, Daz, I said even. Maybe they'll throw out a back 3, because I was thinking, how are they going to match up against us? It just doesn't work. And it just naively, he throws that team out there. And they got killed. So,
yeah, there's definitely not a lot of joined up thinking. But again, I do want to, because I think we have lots to say about things you could improve about that team. And clearly, Solskjaer maybe not the best person to get something out of that team, but thinking about Liverpool, I mentioned last time that Pep Lijnders had said provocatively, "We've changed something this season. Do you know what it is?" Well, a few people have had a go at describing it, but there's definitely something about getting the ball faster from the back line to the front line, which the kind person might say, actually, United were just caught out, not recognizing that Liverpool weren't going to play quite like they had previously against them in terms of getting the ball forward. The kind person might say that, but there's definitely something. So I'm interested in your perspective on this, Daz. But I think I can't remember was it 15 seconds between at Watford, 15 seconds between the kick from whatever the goalie's name is out, and Matip heads it down, Salah one touch, Mane scores. Might have been 10 seconds. That is ridiculous in terms of time between ball in your half and ball in the back of the net. And there's been quite a bit of that going on this year.
I think Sean alluded to it earlier. This is more along the lines of the way we played when we won the league. My take on it first is McFred sounds like a really shit sandwich from the value menu.
Not as good as the McRib.
It is pretty shit.
Not as good as the McNubby, and that's my shit transition into saying is like, I think that he was absolutely the difference maker. And I don't know, Sean, and you can go on your tangent about this after a couple of glasses of wine about how he was disrespected by the commentating staff in terms of how they focused on what he wasn't doing, as opposed to like just how dominant he was in that game. I think Nabi at his best moves the ball very quickly. His close body control, the way that he sucks a ball and takes that little half touch to put himself into space, like he's superlative at it. And I think that's one of the things that Klopp loves about him most, is his ability to move the ball forward quickly. Before he got his spate of injuries, and I said this to you ages ago, that it looked like him and Salah were like almost had some sort of like preternatural like link. Like he just knew where he was going to be, and it seems like that's kind of starting to spool back up. The one detraction from Nabi is like sometimes, because he does like to chew on the ball a little bit and he's a little bit slow, he can be slow with the ball in that situation, that he gets caught on it, and oftentimes it'll end up with the ball coming right back down our throat just inside our own half, and it can lead to some danger. But I think that what he offers is way outstrips and what his potential shortcomings are. But I think that this was like the kind of the consummate Nabi performance. I remember reading somewhere that like this is the first midfielder since, was it McMahon that's scored? I forget who it was exactly, but it's been a long time. The first Liverpool midfield that scored and had an assist, and then he had the hockey assist as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for all you statos, but
the hockey assist was more impressive than the assist.
It was.
That was a good one.
It made me smile, because like because like you have that recency bias. Like I have slaughtered him for the exact same reason that I just outlined. That it's like he just gets caught with the ball sometimes, and he puts us under pressure unnecessarily sometimes. But in general, with the ball at his feet, it's usually moving. It usually leaves his foot pretty quickly. Yeah, and his pressing was unbelievable. Like him being up, like basically right next to, like they showed, there's that photograph of where they show basically what's his face, the ref Taylor is ahead of almost everyone and for that first goal, running backwards to officiate. Like everyone was almost behind him. Yeah. And you wonder, how do you break the line that easily? Where is McTominay? Where is Fred? And we watched someone put in our chat group about was the United way. There was like 4 or 5 of those different kind of live broadcast type situations where they broke it down, and all of them seem to go back to shambolic. And I think that's, and you've mentioned it as well. And I read somewhere as well, like, and it was a very small snippet of a breakdown of how Ole tends to want to try and asks his team to press, and it's closest man just go and close, and everyone else figure it out around them. Whereas Klopp's like, and this is what was great under Lallana, if Lallana springs a press, everyone knows what they need to be doing. Whereas they like, well, I'll just go and close them down. The guys behind me will make sure that they're tracking runners or they're stepping into passing lanes to make sure that I'm covered. And that didn't happen, and it happened over and over and over again. So, Paul, I'm actually interested to know who you thought at United played well, because they had that Bruno put one outside. The first 5 before we actually had our big chance, he blazed one into the street outside the stadium. Mm-hmm. And they had a couple of other opportunities, well, half chances, but they had 1 or 2 where like it was potentially dangerous. But and then at the end, when one went off Robbo's thigh onto the crossbar, which I think would have gotten pulled back for offsides anyway.
Yeah, I think they were offside twice on that play, weren't they?
Yeah, but I don't think anyone in United covered themselves in glory. And again, why would Ole bring a guy that they know to be a hothead into a situation where the team was 4-0 down? He's essentially at fault for their 5th goal, and you brought him on when they're already 4-0 down, and it's like, what do you think he's going to do? He always has rushes of blood to their head. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It smacks like, why not start him?
So I may have been exaggerating with well, but just let me wrap up the Keita point. I mean, someone smarter than me said that
Sean?
Naby is a press monster.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But he's not press resistant, and I think like the way he plays, he takes risks, and I think that's what you're describing. And it's obviously less risky to take risks against a team like United than it is against a team like Atletico Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but played well. So here was my thought. I actually think Rashford was doing what he was asked to do, and potentially, like with a different setup around him, could have done a really
Put
good
Salah
job.
through on goal with a back pass.
Right. Everyone was falling apart then.
Yeah.
Like Naby gave the ball away, right? It's like if that led to a goal, we'd be like, oh. And I actually don't think McTominay, having watched the game back, was like as culpable as what goal as Man United people were talking about. Like,
well, I think so. When I watched the game back, I noticed it seemed to me anyway, we were basically allowing Lindelof and McTominay to have time on the ball. Like we didn't care if they had the ball.
Yeah.
Like that we were almost allowing them to make a pass because Naby effectively took Fred completely out of the game. And that's how they like to build up. They like to use Fred to kind of build up. And then we were pressing Maguire to the point where he just kept punting the ball down the pitch and our center backs would intercept it. Or Konate, I don't know how many times just like headed it right to one of our players,
Yeah.
And we recycled. It was just and I don't want to, going back to the point earlier, we were exceptional. I don't want to like take away from that, but they were also just tactically like clueless. I couldn't figure out what their plan was. I thought Bruno actually had a decent match, at least in the first half, for what I think they wanted him to do. A couple times you could kind of see Bruno would drift to the right and he tried to hit that pass over the top behind Trent.
Yeah.
But other than that, I could not figure out what they were trying to do tactically. I mean, they were just all over the place.
So here's my defense of McTominay. You remember the game? Remember against City where we had that difficult spell at the end of the first half?
Mhm.
Like we had made the pitch much bigger when they were attacking, which made it like really hard for our midfield to cover anything. I think unfortunately that's United's tactic. You've got Ronaldo up there. We have our old tactic of the guy Rashford and Greenwood out on the wings. Like Fred, who's not a great player, and McTominay have got this like area to cover that's like the size of Anfield, because Old Trafford pitch is much bigger than Anfield, and I don't think they were ever going to succeed. So I don't think there's anything in my mind that McTominay did that like contributed as much as things that other people contributed to.
Yeah, I think the issue you're talking about, I think, is an issue actually that I think Ronaldo causes, because he demands to play so high up the pitch. It stretches their team out and it almost forces them to play a high line, which they're not good at. So, Ronaldo's not going to track back and do anything. And he almost pouts if he has to come back past the halfway line. And it just creates problems for everyone else. And the more you look into them and their potential issues, they are a mess. Because if they do bring in someone else, it's going to cost them a ton of money because they have to pay off all their current coaches plus the new ones. And their team doesn't really make sense right now. So I don't know what they do,
I did read a thing saying Antonio Conte was keen to come to United because then he could bench Ronaldo.
I don't think
that may be
they're
necessary
set up for a Conte at all. And Zidane, who knows what Zidane's going to do, because he's only managed at Real Madrid and they had an amazing team when he took over. So
I think it might be. So I don't know why you would go to that team right now. I think you would want it to play out before you manage them. I'm going to go to Daz, but I think one of the things that a couple of things I want to bring back from previous episodes. When we had Simon Brundish on, he talked about United saying they're never going to be a threat as long as De Gea is in goal and Maguire is in defence, because Maguire can't play a high line and De Gea stays on his line. And I think they just exacerbated the whole problem by having Ronaldo. Like, so like, what's the thing? You want to be compact when you're without the ball, and you want to be like expansive when you're with the ball. They're not bad at the expansive with the ball thing, but they're awful at the compact when you haven't got the ball thing with Ronaldo, and one more point to make, and I'll go to you, Daz. Sean Rogers, our friend from the Anfield Rapper Review Show, said something I thought was really insightful, which is like, who is coaching Greenwood? Because that closing down he did for the first goal on Van Dijk is like the kind of thing that like junior kids would have been coached out of. That you don't just run at the player, you look at the passing lanes, you come at him at an angle where he can't make the pass, instead of which, he just ran at him and Virgil waits long enough till he gets closer and then knocks it off to Robertson, which then forces Wan-Bissaka, who's got no one to mark, to charge up the line and, ping, ping, ping. And suddenly Shaw is like a 1-on-2 with Naby and Mo Salah. Daz.
Is there a question in there, or?
Oh, I'm just amused actually by the like how do you end up spending way more money on a team that actually wasn't probably doing that bad last year? Still think we would have beaten them on most occasions, and make them worse.
Well, I don't, not to try and turn this too much into a Man United.
Well, we're having a pile-on moment. It's good.
Oh, all right. Look, my heart almost goes out to that Keebler elf-looking little son of a bitch, because he was
at the wheel.
Yeah, at the wheel, Ollie at the wheel, and they did that all day today too at the match against Preston, Deepdale. I think that everyone, so you can pile more expensive shit on top of an already shit sandwich, and I think that he is at so much baseline shit sandwich to get through, like, and you've dusted it with super, like, some of the most high priced shit on the face of the earth, to really labor a shit analogy. He was never ever going to be the man for the job. If Mourinho wasn't going to get it right, and his predecessors, who all had some chops, weren't going to get it right, Ollie was not really going to. You can't. I think the age of the Galacticos is over. Because you have to have a plan. You have to have a coach that knows how to manage personalities. Like, the guy won't even fucking park in Sir Alex's spot. Like, dude, what is that? You're keeping a seat warm is all you're doing. If you're not going to say, like, this is my team, or this is what I am going to do. And I think that United, and we all know it, and I'm assuming that they feel the same way, is like they're doing themselves a disservice by letting him stay. I think at this point he's probably lost a lot of his core veterans. I don't think Paul Pogba wants to play for him. Ronaldo's there cashing a check, and I think that the more that this goes, the more that this is in the shitter, the worse his attitude is going to get. Because you can paper over some of the cracks with some of his last minute winners and say, oh, it's great to have him back, but he's not providing you with anything other than that. And granted, that's a nice thing to be able to provide, but if you're shipping 3 or 4 goals and he's only providing you with 2, you're going to lose 4-2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it was doomed from the start for him. And they, again, like they do have enough talent that you can burgle some results and potentially get deep into competitions. They got to the Europa League final, but it's that they're not a cohesive unit. And the pieces that they've bought, Wan-Bissaka, like we were talking about off air beforehand, he's good at one thing. Harry Maguire is good at one thing, nodding the ball away. And people can say he's a good passer of the ball, potentially. But he's like a turtle. Like, you get him on, if you turn him around, you get him on his back, he's not going to catch you.
Yeah.
And that challenge that was potentially a red card challenge on top of the box there. I think I would have been a harsh red card, I think, but it's I've seen them given.
Mm-hmm.
It's last ditch stuff when it's on top. Like, he's not cultured. He's not. There's a lot of flaws to his game, and I think that there's Lindelof is an adequate center back, but he's never going to win you a championship. You go right through the team. Pogba is being misused for pretty much his entire career there. And you can say that his attitude hasn't been there, but he's like, they're not using his best qualities to the best effect. Luke Shaw is I think is a fairly good left back, but he was left out to dry. You go right the way through the team. Bruno is the same thing. Like, you have a lot of guys that throw strops and things don't go their way. And if that's the case, and you want those types of players in your clubhouse, you have to have someone that knows how to manage those personalities.
Yeah.
I think what's his face? It used to be the Carlo Ancelotti was probably really good at that. Mourinho in his pomp was good at that.
Mm-hmm.
But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not that. Like, he's on the cover of a Rice Krispies box, for Christ's sake. Like, he's not gonna. he's not the man for the job, and like, it's you can feel some sympathy for him, but hey, long may it continue.
Yeah.
I have definitely heard a lot of Man United people saying, even those that are now saying, "Oh, maybe it's over," that he's taken us, like, he's moved us beyond the toxic times of Mourinho, which, you know, I can go with that. But I think, to your point, that I don't think anyone's winning the league anytime soon with Galacticos. I think you need a more kind of modern, like, where everyone, you can't have like passengers in the press, for example. And if you have got passengers, like, this is probably a message for PSG as well, then you probably need to play a different style of football. And good luck with that in the modern game.
Well, like, if just to extrapolate on that point, look at Brighton. I thought Brighton were really good last year, but they were decent last year. They just couldn't finish. They got some bad bounces. They got some bad breaks. Like, they could have finished 3, 4, 5 spots higher if if the ball had found the back of the net. They played us hard both games, and the year before that too, when there was that I was actually at that game when the referee gave the who was it, Atwell, gave the foul on top of the 18-yard box, and then like didn't give what's his face, Adrian, time to set up, and the guy just slotted it in the bottom corner. That was against Brighton. Like, they're a smart team, and they're well coached. They know what they're about. Brentford's another one. But as we were going to make our segue, for no reason, here's Brighton.
So we should probably close right with the upcoming weekend.
Well, before we say that, I can't believe we got to talk about Mo Salah just briefly with the hat trick. First player.
Boring now. He could be the best player in the world. I don't know.
First player to ever have a hat trick. First opposing player ever have a hat trick at Old Trafford. Scored 10 matches in a row. He's the only player on the pitch, I think, especially in that first half, that was, above or on par with Naby, which is saying a lot for Naby. And head to head on the day, there's no doubt who was the better player between him and Ronaldo. So, just couldn't leave without mentioning that. That was pretty.
You might need to change his song to like something running down the sod. Da, 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 an Egyptian god, because like I think he's transcended kinghood and he's gone straight to like deity status.
I'd say at this point he's worthy of a second song, maybe just about the Old Trafford performance, right? I don't know.
Sounds good. But by the way, I did read somewhere that someone pointed out the first mistake Manchester United made was the song selection before the game. Do you know about this?
Yeah.
Apparently they were playing in the pre-match. They were playing songs from bands from Manchester. And the like Mo Salah running down the wing is actually a song by a Manchester band called James called Sit Down. And apparently they played that like half an hour before the game started, which of course, led to the away end quite happily singing Mo Salah, Mo Salah.
Oh man, I've never seen. I mean, the Traveling Cops, I know, like legendary. But that was that must have been a ball. I can't even imagine how much fun that must have been for that crowd.
Well, a lot of them that were in it said it's probably one of the best that they've ever been in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got to believe, actually, that's probably worth a place to kind of go. I got to believe that apart from the days when we won things, that may have been the greatest day in a long time. Because we don't, they've got the worst record, I think. We have the worst record against them than any other team in the Premier League. Historically, they've beaten us more times than we've beaten them. This was, I don't think we need to fear going there again, actually, in the same way.
Not as long as Mo Salah is there.
Yeah.
Well, even the sort of the sense of, ooh, Old Trafford, it's like, oh, we've won here before, 5-0, come on.
Well, on the back, we beat them 4-2 last year.
Yeah.
There were no fans in the stands.
I
but,
do think that was significant, actually, the sense
Yeah.
that, well, we can win here without a crowd. Why can't we win with a crowd? I do think that was important.
Well, actually, just to round out the point that we made at the beginning, I think the difference was, like, I don't remember seeing us this ruthless. Like, it's almost like we were just closing our eyes and putting it in top bins. And, like, granted, a lot of them were tap ins, but just how ruthless we were. Like, I've seen Jota miss from there before, actually, or at least the goalkeeper make a good save. Mo Salah, like, putting it across right foot. Like, David De Gea is not what he used to be, but he's no slouch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's been better recently than he was, last couple of years. So he was amazing for a few years, and then he fell off, and more recently he's been pretty good again. But
he was like our kryptonite for a long time. Like, he just.
Yep.
He was.
And I remember here when I was probably on a podcast about how we would routinely kind of fluff shots that we should have put on net, because the expectation was that if you're going to beat him, it's has to go into a top, like, nestle right up where the owl sleep, right in the top corner, which is one of my favorite Brazilian expressions, by the way. That's what top bins is in Brazil. He puts it where the owl sleeps.
Talking Brazilian goalkeepers, which obviously are, I do think for Bruno was a bit affected by the fact that he was trying to put the ball past a certain Brazilian goalkeeper. I'm sure
he saw him back there finishing his crossword and his ham sandwich. He's like, "I'll be right with you, mate. Go ahead, take your best shot."
I think there are probably 55 more points we can make about this. Maybe the next 12 episodes should be about ways we beat Man United. It'd be interesting to see how they get on against Tottenham this weekend. We are playing Brighton, who we mentioned, who are the XG kings and not scoring goals. And I'm sure we could talk a lot about our XG versus goal scored. Let's do a once around on them, and then wrap it up. So on paper, we have a much easier game this weekend against Brighton at home. They were at one point, I think they were fourth. They obviously lost to City last weekend. They had a few, like, disappointing performances, I think, kind of preceding that. What are your hopes and expectations, Sean, about Brighton? Obviously, based on other stuff we've said, I think we think they've got a really good coach. I don't know kind of what team's going to show up. Actually, is it the one that was really incisive at the start of the season, or is it the one that looks like they've got stuck a bit in the last couple of weeks?
I mean, I think Brighton's a very good team. Last year, I think that they ended up with fewer points than they probably deserved. They were a good team, and a lot of the advanced analytics and XG, they kind of pointed to that last year. They created a lot of chances. They didn't give up a lot, and they the goal difference didn't quite balance out the way it should have for them. Part of that, I think, is because they didn't have a great finisher to score a lot of chances. But we've been linked with Basuma in their midfield. I think Man United have too. To me, he's kind of a standout player for them. But I think the way that our team's playing right now, it's different than the team that won the title. And I think this is like what I've kind of struggled with at times this year. The year we won the title in record fashion, it was mostly about our defense. We just didn't give up hardly any goals. Nobody could touch us. This year, it's almost like we've swung more back to the earlier Klopp days, where we're just scoring ruthlessly against teams. Like, to average over 3 goals a match is unbelievable. And I wonder if that has something to do with the right-sided 8 playing more advanced, kind of in that Harvey Elliott role and getting. And I know I mentioned in the previous podcast, you score more goals, you win more games. But it's maybe that's has something to do with what Pep has said that we're doing differently this year. Maybe it has something to do with almost. It seems like we've almost switched in attack with the ball, with that right sided 8 pushing up higher, and it creates sort of this triangle between Salah, the 8, and Trent. And yeah, I've noticed a little bit, especially when Harvey was playing. Like Harvey would swing out to the wing, and Trent would come inside, and it creates a lot of problems for opposing teams, and so between that and our ability to score off set pieces, which we haven't always taken well, but we scored a lot off of those, especially early in the season. Um, I expect us to win the match. I mean, you know, um, I just I'm feeling super confident about this team right now, even though we have a lot of injuries. A few players are expected to maybe come back on the weekend, but I mean, we're just flying right now. A lot like we were in that second half of 19, and then the whole season 1920. It's there aren't very many teams in the world that I would be worried about at this point. Um, and so I expect us to win, especially at home. I also think Anfield will be rocking after that win this past weekend. So you'll see though, you never know though. I mean, things can kind of go against you, and it can end up being a slog, but it's just we're a tough team to play right now.
I think we are. So the our XG has risen this season. So clearly we're scoring a lot of goals. We're actually scoring the goals we're expected to score, which we weren't necessarily last year. But our XG against has gone up a little bit. I've read some stuff that says maybe that's like if you've got the best goalie in the world, then you can give up a few more chances. He's tied for the most clean sheets right now, even though we played some pretty like teams that you would expect to score goals. So that all sets up pretty well. I think you're right. 3:00 Saturday. We don't play again till Wednesday against Atletico, and then the following game is Saturday away at West Ham, which may end up being much more difficult than the game at Old Trafford. But it feels like it's nicely spaced out. If we've got enough players back. Daz, what are your thoughts? Brighton home, 10-0. No, what do you think?
I think that I've said on these here airwaves more than once. I think it depends what type of hangover we have from the previous game. I know they're professionals, and these guys are not a physical actual hangover. I'm talking about like the mental aspect of it. Look, these guys are professionals. As long as Mo Salah's fit and firing, like I think that guy wants 40 goals this season. He just and by God, the way he's playing, it looks like he will. Like I'll be honest. At the beginning of the United game, I was like, he's looking a bit. He doesn't look like he's involved, and then like he just switches on, and it's game over. And he has that potential. I look. I expect us to win. I think we might ship a goal because they're a tidy little team. They played their second string, I think, against Leicester today, and whatever their second string is, and they played them pretty well. They ended up going to peanuts and penalty kick. Sorry for the American audience, and
PKs for the American audience.
Oh, PKs, and we're kind of a juggernaut right now, and so that's the more I look at the Brentford game and like just in abstraction, that the more I am impressed with them, that they were like, we're willing to go toe to toe with you guys, bring it. And that might be the recipe that some of these guys come to Anfield with, is like, look, we're expected to get absolutely tonked. Let's give it some horns, play two up top, press absolutely everything when we can, and then just sit deep and make them break us apart. Because if you look at the joy that Atletico got, it was exactly like Atletico's completely in a different league, literally and metaphorically. But when we lost possession of the ball, and it happened today against Preston too, they counted very, very quickly and very well. So, but there's no reason that they shouldn't come at us. Like, it could be a good boost for them to say, like, at least we gave it something at Anfield. Obviously, the downside of that is like they get absolutely slapped around and it's 5 or 6-0, and they're on the back of a kind of a little bit of a slide. It's not an avalanche. So I don't know. I'm hoping it's going to be a good game, because I think Brighton likes to play good football, and honestly, I'd like to see them come at us and at least provide like some sort of entertainment, like at least try and throw a couple of haymakers, not try and jab their way through it. But I think we'll come out winners, 2-1 winners.
I think it will definitely be interesting the way they choose to play. The final thing I kind of go to is they're a really tall team, so I'm wondering whether Konate will play this weekend as well.
You might. I think it was interesting, just going back to briefly, that a lot of people were shocked at the lineup, and it does seem that part of that was Konate's pace. He's potentially a better partner for Van Dijk because of his pace. I mean, he's also very good in the air, but I thought he had a fantastic game, especially being thrown into that situation. But with Trent being held, so high so often, it is helpful to have somebody a little bit faster there, which Joe, maybe still does, definitely, used to kind of fill that role that way. But he's coming back from a major injury, so maybe Konate is a little bit quicker than him at the moment. But it'll be interesting. I'm not sure what to expect there, to be honest with you. He could go back to Konate and Virgil, or Matip could maybe come back in. I'll be interested to see what midfielders are in the team.
Yeah.
Well, not even necessarily starting, but who's on the bench. Because I think there's some possibility potentially for Fabinho. I think maybe Nabi and to both be back. And I think Thiago, is back in training. Pep Linders said this week, and said he's probably not going to be back for Brighton, but pretty soon. So that'll be nice to get most of our midfielders back, not have that worry anymore.
I'm thinking it's probably going to be Fabinho, Hendo, and Curtis.
Yeah, probably.
Just based on what we have available.
I mean, the Fabinho thing's weird though, because he wasn't even on the bench against United. So and they've been kind of weird about what that injury is, but they said that he's expected to be back this weekend. So I kind of wonder if he'll start. But then, I'm not sure what our options are, because Milner's out for however long now. I don't know if they've said anything about that injury.
Hamstring. This will be a good couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Even if it's tightness.
Yeah. So I'm thinking this is probably a good place to wrap up. We will be back next week to talk the outcome of the game with Brighton. We will have a special guest from the Red Men in Germany. So look out for that one. Thanks to everyone. Daz, Sean, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with a friend. Follow us on Twitter, because we only tweet legitimate tweets from sources that are worth tweeting.